Hiya, it's Sandy coming to you from Crafter's Corner. I am your right-handed crochet demonstrator. Today I'm going to be demonstrating the Lullaby Lodge version of the Granny Flower Square. So this is what it looks like, and you can find the pattern at www.lullabylodge.com. So in order to create this granny square, I have a few colors by my side. I'm using Bernat Premium, which is a 4-weight yarn, and a 5mm hook, which is an H for boy. So I'm assuming that you have some knowledge of crochet terms at this point. If you do not, there is a video that I've already posted in right hand that is the classic granny square crochet. In that video I go into detail about reading a pattern and the stitches themselves and how to create them. So I'm just going to begin this video actually just starting off with the pattern itself. So as a foundation, we're going to do a slip knot to attach the yarn to the hook, and we're going to chain 4 and join with a slip stitch to form the ring. Chain 4 and a slip stitch to form the ring. And then we have the hole in the center. We've made a little donut, and we're going to work 12 double crochets into the ring. So you can do a standing double crochet, or you can chain 2 as your first double crochet. So I'm chaining 2. Oh, okay, she's actually saying start each round with a chain 3 or less to double crochet. So yeah, I am going to stick with the 2. I find 3 just a little sloppy for my tension. And we're going to work 12 in, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. We're actually working 11 double crochets into the ring because that chain 2 is our first. So 1, 2, oops. Yeah, split a yarn over here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7, 8. Notice I'm working over the tail as I go, holding it with the chain circle in behind and working over both. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Give a little tug. Oh, this is US terms too, by the way. 10, 11, and the last one, 12. And we're going to join to the second of the chain 2 that we started with. We're going to go ahead and put the yarn underneath the V at the top of that stitch, if we can actually get it. Sorry, I'm staring into sunlight and getting a lot of glare through my own window. Okay, so we're slip stitching to the top of that chain 2, and there's the first round 1, and 12 double crochets in total. We're changing colors to work the second round, so I'm gonna snip off my yarn, leaving it a long enough tail to weave in later, and I'm ending off that color so that we don't have the beginnings and ends in the same space and building up a whole area where the yarn is thicker. I'm actually going to spin this so that I'm starting in a new spot. And we're going to join the new color onto the hook. And we're working 2 double crochets into each space between the stitches. So we aren't actually working into the tops of the stitches, we're working in between them. So I'm going to put my hook in between 2 of the double crochets from the previous round, and I'm going to slip stitch this onto the work itself. Then I'm going to double crochet 2 again, and in that same space I'm going to work 1 more double crochet for the equivalent of 2 double crochets into the first space. And we're simply going to work around and do 2 double crochets in between each of them. This pattern does not instruct us to turn our work, so I'm still working on the same side, the front side from the first round, to carry on with the rest of this pattern. Be sure to work in between and not through the tops of the stitches from the previous rounds, because we're actually trying to create space between these spokes in the very first round. So I hope everybody is staying safe and well and enjoying these video tutorials that Crafter's Corner is putting out for you. Hopefully we're going to branch out so that it's more than just crochet. We want to bring you anything from knitting to hand carving with wood to jewelry making to stained glass painting. Who knows where this is going to take us, but eventually we want to be your one-stop craft source for how-to videos for you to learn something new and be able to share skills that you have. We're on Facebook as Crafter's Corner, and it's a closed group, but if you come over and request to join, we'd love to have you. We are a very supportive group, which is why it's closed. It isn't just about the crafts. We're community supporting each other mentally, emotionally. Anybody can join, but we just want to make sure that it's a safe space to share what's going on in your world. So I have completed this round. I'm going to slip stitch it to the top, but first I'm just going to make sure that there's 2 in every space. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 22, 4. Okay, so we have 24. That's the count we should have. I'm going to slip stitch it to the top of the beginning chain 2. that completes round 2, and I'm going to end off this color because round 3 is yet another color. Again, I'm going to spin it and start in another space again so that we don't have the yarn build up. And this time I'm going to go for a purple for round 3. Do the slip knot onto the hook. For round 3, we're working 3 double crochets into the spaces between each pair of stitches from the previous round. So I'm going to slip stitch into one of the spaces. This yarn really doesn't want to cooperate with me today. There we go. Okay. So chaining 2 and then 2 more double crochets in this space. And we're going to continue around working 3 double crochets into the space between each pair, not between each stitch, but between each pair of stitches. So we're skipping the hole in there and we're going in between the groupings to do 3. 1, 2, and 3. Skip the next set, so we're working into this gap and doing 3 more. And we'll just carry on around the entire circumference. Now I like to weave my ends back and forth, so when I work over the tail of the round before, I never work it completely in. I always leave enough that I can attach a needle and actually work that tail back and forth a couple of times. There's just less chance of it being worked out of the crochet work later. Yeah, you don't want it unraveling on you and bits sticking out all over the place. So I worked a couple of these sets underneath, but then I've dropped it again, so there's lots of tail left there to work with later. Weaving in is not my favorite job, but I usually sit down with a cup of coffee and I'll work in all the ends at once, put my favorite TV show on, and work away at them. I take them seriously because there is nothing worse than putting all of this work in and then having your work unravel on you later or start showing through. It's not nice. Whatever you do, you want it to last as long as possible. Even if it's a baby garment that's only going to be worn for a while, it's still an heirloom piece, and you don't want things coming apart unexpectedly. If you can pass something down from generation to generation, so much the better. Or literally wear it out before it disintegrates. We're coming close to the end here. One more set of the 3. 1, 2, and 3. We're gonna slip stitch it into the second of the chain 2 that was the initial double crochet. This pattern doesn't explicitly say to end off your yarn, and if you want to do it monochromatic and just do one color, you just keep carrying on, and you don't need to cut off your yarn at all. You just keep working in the round. So that's the end of round 3. Round 4 is another color change if that's what you're doing. So I'm ending this off here. And I'm going to go back, I think, to the dark green that I've done in the center here. I was going to switch it up to ivory, but I don't think I want to introduce the light color for what I'm doing eventually with all of my squares. So here I am back to the dark green. So starting in any space between, I'm going to spin this around a bit, come over here, there we go. I'm going to slip stitch it in between the clusters, and it says to chain 4 because we're switching to triples instead of doubles for this part of it. So a triple, you wrap your yarn twice. So you know it's a triple because you can see 3 loops over your hook all together. So to do a triple, you wrap twice into the hole, pick up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. This is another way to tell that it's a triple. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. We yarned over and pulled through 2 3 times, so that makes it a triple. So we're going to do one more in the same space. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2. And we're going to chain 2, and we're creating a corner. So we're actually going to do 3 triples into this same space again. 1, 2, 3. And this is how you turn a circle into a square. You start creating corners. So that's our first corner done. And we're going to do, without chaining at all, we're just going to move into the next space. We're going to do 3 double crochets into that space. 1, oh, yarn's splitting on me again. 1, 2. This really doesn't want to cooperate for me. Bad demonstration yarn. And 3. And we're doing that twice. So we're going to go over to the next space and do it again. 1, 2, and 3. So this is the end of what will be this side, and we're working across. Notice that the triples, because it was a circle, you needed to build up height to create the corner to make a straight edge across the top. So it's triples on the corners and it's doubles going across the sides. So we're doing the next one as another corner. So we need to do triples again. So 3 triples, chain 2, 3 triples. Or trebles, if that's what you want to say. Nobody knows the trebles I've seen. Oh, bad mum joke. Bad Sandy. 1, set, chain 2. Can't believe I just subjected you to that. 2, sets in the same space. Sorry about the road noise. Got my window open. It's a beautiful day here. And we're switching back to the doubles. So we're going to do 3 doubles into the first space between clusters. Gauge isn't important in this unless you're making a garment and you're specifically putting these together to fit a certain size. Your gauge is going to depend on yarn size, hook size, tension. Yeah. So if you're doing a blanket, you just keep working these until you have enough to make the size blanket that you wish. And if they're all slightly off, you can always block to make all of your blocks the same size, as long as they're relatively close to each other in size to begin with. Why does that keep happening? 1, 2, I'm back to a corner, so I'm back to doing triples. So that's the first set of 3 triples. Oh, I split my own yarn there. Chain 2. Sorry, working triples again. Another 3 into the same space. And work your yarn around so that you actually have a proper space to work your stitches into, so they aren't overlapping at the base. And we're moving on to the next space, so we're back to doubles. We've finished the corner. 1, 2, 3. Next one. 1, 2, 3. Last corner we're coming into, switching back to trebles. We're going to do 3 trebles, chain 2, 3 trebles again. And if you forget that you're doing trebles or doubles, you might have to go back through and pull your work back to that area and start over. It's worth it to do that to make everything look tidy and pretty. If you know you've made a mistake, don't carry on for something like this, because it will change the shape of the granny square, and if you're putting a whole blanket together, you'll have one wonky area where it's a little smaller. It will be noticeable. So if you're working on small stuff like this, you can't really bury the mistakes very easily, and you're not having to rip out hours worth of work, so it is worth it to go back and get it right. Here we're working doubles again because we're on the sides, and this is the last set of 3 that we're working in here. And we're going to slip stitch that to the top, so the 3rd chain of your chain 3 underneath the V, and do a slip stitch through both. So that is the granny flower square. You've completed it now. We're going to end this off with a fairly decent length of tail. Give it a little tug, a little stretch, And there you can see you've actually completed the whole thing. I'm very quickly going to demonstrate how I weave in ends. These will all have to be woven in. So I tend to weave the same color into the same color whenever possible. Sometimes that really isn't possible depending on the stitch combination that you've used, but I try to do that to sort of bury the colors and not have things so obvious. So for the light green here, I'm going to go under. I'm using a pointy needle, pointy darning needle, and I'm going to go under this set with my finger on this side to make sure that I can't feel the needle poking out underneath. You don't want it going right through your work. You're just kind of scooching underneath that set of stitches. And pull, but not too tight. You don't want it puckering the work, but you want to make sure all of that yarn has disappeared underneath. Take your sharp end and put it into a different area so that you aren't working back through. You can actually undo what you've done if you put it in exactly the same spot. So move your needle over, but still so that you're going underneath that cluster, and do it again. And repeat again. Do it at least 3 times, if not more, because working in one direction and then opposite and then the same direction again and then opposite, there's almost no chance of those ends working out when you've gone back and forth and back and forth. And then I usually pull the stitches a little bit so that that little end disappears. And up here, again, I'm going to try to work into that same shading by coming down these stitches and working across that cluster at the bottom. And I'm going to do that with all of these colors. I'm using the light one so that hopefully it shows up on camera a little bit better. So I'm working into the length of that stitch, but weaving it into the stitch. I'm not going on the other side of it, and I'm not letting too much of it show here, because you don't want it to look like another stitch or just a plain piece of yarn coming down through. You actually want it to disappear into the stitch. And we're going to weave in through that set. And with the sharp needle, what you're doing is you're actually splitting the fibers that you're going through. You're splitting through some of that dark green underneath so that your stitches will actually hold. Your weaving in will actually hold better than if you had just slipped the needle next to the yarn underneath. Again, give it a tug, but not too tight. And you're trying not to split the yarn that's actually showing. You don't want any of these finished parts to look like they've been split. They look really disheveled when you do that. So that's it. I've woven in 2 ends for you. I'm not going to bore you doing the rest of them. But that's your granny square. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, click like and subscribe. Love to see your comments. And I hope you're having a great day. Take care, everybody. Bye for now.